All right, this is Clint from the Doorway too, hanging out with Josh from Red Temple Pray. First of all, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it. I know your weather has been kind of unpredictable right now, so
Yeah.
at least we got this done. But my first question is, I want to kind of ask about the name because it's kind of an original name, and I kind of want to know where it came from. So
Yeah, yeah. The name of the band?
yeah,
Yeah, man. So we got the name because the band's a little bit older than what the 2 records that we have out are. We kinda just never released anything, couldn't get it together, that kinda thing. Couldn't get a drummer together. But anyway, like, our original stuff was a lot darker. Um, it was still in the realm of, like, alternative. I think it maybe leaned a little bit harder into, like, the darker shoegaze stuff, like, early on. And at the time, I was, like, real big into Rocky Erickson.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, so the song, Two-Headed Dog,
yeah,
Red Temple Prayer. Yeah, dude. So, like, I was like, "This would be cool for something that would be a little bit different."
yeah,
And, dude, so we, like, stole it. The name stuck. The style kinda changed a little bit, but, yeah, we just kept it. It rolled with it. It fits still, though, because it's
yeah.
different, you know?
No, absolutely. That's cool. That's super awesome. I was wondering if it had something to do with Rocky Erickson
Yeah,
because
yeah.
and then I was like, but if I start it like that, it's gonna blow any kind of mystery. So I don't want
Right, right, yeah.
to.
No, it's funny because, like, people don't know much about that, but they think it's a rip on Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
So it's like which it isn't, but I can definitely see that because that's, like especially if people know me personally, that's one of my all-time favorite bands, like,
Awesome.
ever. So they think I ripped them off, and it's like, "Hey, no, I just ripped somebody else off you just don't know about."
And before I start talking about what I hear and the music itself and things like that, how would you describe the band after this record came out?
We've been getting a lot of more of a like shoegazy kinda thing, and I kinda hear some of that, I definitely get that, but initially, the idea, was just, like, riff heavy alternative rock, because the band is primarily made up of, musicians that play in death metal bands, and you know what I mean? So it's like, I myself, the guitar player, Nikki, and the bass player also play in a death metal band called Bather, and it's like it's kinda hard, like, even though we grew up listening to, like, the '90s alternative, like, we grew up listening to, like, the classic stuff, growing up, it's kinda hard to take that out still, the riffs, you know what I mean? Like, once you do it for so long, and we've been playing in those bands for 20 years, and this is, like, our first endeavor of doing something that's a little bit more, easy and digestible to listen to,
Yeah.
but, that's still gonna reflect, like, we're still gonna have, like, the riff heavy parts and that kind of thing. But yeah, initially, like, we're just like, we want to make like a riff heavy alternative rock record in the vein of bands like Hum, where that has like the big,
Sure.
and we're big like Helmet fans, so stuff like everything that is based on like the riff with
Gotcha.
clean vocals, yeah. And then people were like, yeah, it's like very like shoegazy. I'm like, I can kind of hear that.
No, that's awesome. So yeah, I come from the old school doom death metal kind
Dude.
of. Yeah,
Yep.
and like I said, I have a sign band that does like doomy noise kind of stuff. So like, like I totally get that. But what made me want to talk to you is the mixture of two certain styles of music that I heard on this new record. And that's what I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit right now. And you can tell me if I'm crazy, if like I'm hearing bands that aren't really there.
Oh, no, 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 for sure, dude.
So the first band I want to talk about, first of all, is when I first listened to the old record, I listened to it twice all the way through because I thought it was insane. And then I said, no, it's there. So like you have a very DC kind of post-hardcore vibe to me. And what I hear is Jawbox. I don't know if
Yeah,
you like
yeah.
them or not at all, but vocally and guitar tone wise, there is like a ton of Jawbox screaming in your band. So
I'll take that. Yeah, I'm not like a connoisseur of like the post-hardcore, but the like bands like Jawbox and stuff like that have definitely been an influence on us. And we didn't know like sometimes like things creep in that you don't really know. You know what I mean? And so whenever it gets brought up, it's like, holy fuck, like you're right, I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Even though I wrote the shit, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, to do like that's a massive compliment. I'll take that. That's definitely in the same realm of a lot of the stuff that we come from. So yeah, absolutely, dude. You're not crazy at all.
Cool, cool. No, that's awesome. There's two other big bands that I liked. I'm 51, so I have been listening to this stuff since the late 80s. Tape trading. I actually went to record stores and bought CDs and tapes and albums. So
Hell yes.
you
Yeah, dude.
people are, like I heard music because I became friends with the dudes that worked at girls that worked at record shops and said, "Hey, you bought this last week. We just got this 7-inch in. You're gonna goddamn love
Dude,
this." Would
if
literally play. They would play it for you at the store, and they'd be like, just put it in the pile." Like
if
like
fucking only it was like that. God damn, dude, that would be so sick.
yeah.
High fidelity type shit, man.
So like I said, but the other two bands that really kind of come through to me is Sunny Day Real Estate and Shudder
Yeah.
to Think. Uh, so those three bands are the on that side, kind of the indie, kind of more emotional. I hate using the word emo, but
Right. No, no, no. I
they,
get
they,
you.
they throw that stuff into it.
Yeah.
And then the other two bands that may kind of throw for a twist, but I don't think they're gonna because you kind of were talking about Stone Temple Pilots and stuff like that. But Alice in Chains, and what I'm talking about for Alice in Chains, it's very much the first album, not going further on, but like just the early Alice in Chains stuff. And then the last band I want to talk about is, I swear to God, at times, man, when you do your vocals, you sound like this band Baroness. And I don't know if you
Oh
know who,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like I know they're a male and female kind of split up vocal now, but early on he was just doing vocals all by himself. And when you get powerful, man, you sound like the singer from Baroness. So.
Dude, fucking thank you. That's sick. I'll take that. Yeah, no, man. That's all of our influences are, in the heavy realm, but also like the doom stuff. Um, like the guys are like big, like Conan band, like friend,
Yeah.
like bands like that, the big, just fucking massive. So like, yeah, this record really does reflect a lot of like in our head, we're thinking like, well, we want to write a softer rock, like a riff heavy rock record. And in our heads, it's like, okay, well, so like kind of like a sludge band, and like, no, not really a sludge band, but yeah, so like a lot of our influences are things like, Baroness and things that kind of weave in and out of, because it still kind of have like, it still has like a little bit of a metal edge to it. And it's cool when people bring up like Sunny Day Real Estate, because that's a band that I feel like has now just kind of resurfaced. Like people are just now kind of finding those bands. So like back when we were younger, like we knew, because that was like the first wave of, like you said, like the emotional bands or emo bands, but that's not like a what do you call it? A derogatory term, I guess you would say, for that type of stuff, because it's good shit. Like,
Yeah,
no, you're 100% correct. That's nail on the head, dude.
cool. I was one of those guys that like when Sunny Day broke up, I got distraught. And then I'm like reading, I'm like, wait, the dude from Nirvana's taking the rhythm section from Sunny Day. I was like, this album is going to be the greatest fucking record of
Yeah.
all time. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
you don't know what magic you're getting. And then those early Foo Fighter records came out. And I was like, holy shit, this is like Sunny Day Real Estate with like pop sensibilities.
Dude,
Like, yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree fully. Hell yeah, dude. Yeah.
Cool,
Right there
cool.
with you.
Cool. So talking onto that, I kind of want to ask you, is it really hard to be able to do those dark pop sensibilities, but add that really heavy, ballsy element to it? Because a lot of bands fail at it, but you seem to have succeeded where you can add almost a straight up pop kind of 60s, 70s pop element to balls out, fuzzed out doom.
Dude, no, absolutely. That's it's it's not really hard, I guess, for us to figure that out, because of one, like our history of playing in like the big, like heavier bands, but being massive fans of like straight up pop music. I'm a massive fan. Like I love pop hooks. I love like, late 80s Janet Jackson, stuff like that, are like legit bare bones. That's a pop artist. Like it's not even a band that has pop elements. So taking like the most raw old school pop and then like mixing it with the bigger stuff. And we didn't really know. We just were like, we just want to make a hooky and make it so that it's like sticks with people. And by nature, like I'm a writer of like kind of like darker, lushier, because even in my heavy bands, like every song that I write is pretty much a love song, and I don't know why. It's just something that kind of comes out. So it's like I have the idea and the content of being like a pop writer with like the style of something that's a little bit darker and heavier, and it kind of just naturally came out. So it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be because I legitimately thought that was going to be almost
Yeah,
impossible. Because I've done nothing but scream for 20 years, like, and I've always wanted to do something that was a little bit more digestible and clean singing because those are the things that I looked up to. I looked up to those like rock bands and like the ballads. I love hair metal. I loved hair ballads. Like I love that very like traditional loving big thing. And so whenever we were writing this record, because the first EP that we put out definitely leans more on the Sunny Day Real Estate kind of
mhm,
vibe. Like you could definitely hear that indie post-hardcore alternative. And then when we came in with the full length record, we recorded with Andy Nelson, who was in Chicago at Bricktop, and Weekend Nachos, grindcore bands, Power Violets, and we're like, because he recorded all of our death metal stuff, and we know Andy from doing that. And I was like, we feel comfortable recording with him. Let's take this project to him too. And that's like with the writing and also the production and his ideas, and knowing that he knew what we wanted because he liked that stuff too. So we kind of like as a team like shaped this big wall of sound,
nice.
and it just worked, you know what I mean? But like I thought it was gonna be so hard, especially when we were writing a full length. This is the first full length that we've written since like an old band, like way back. So we're like,
Okay.
we need to really like do it. And it worked. And thank God it worked.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. And it's funny because you just said Weekend Nachos. So now we have like this weird relationship because I just did an interview with John from Weekend Nachos, but
Yeah, yeah.
for his new band Stomach, because it's like just absolutely the most sludgy, brilliant doom record I've ever heard. And so like that's funny because that whole Chicago Midwest scene is so incestuous. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Absolutely. It's
Like
cool.
like you will like like John and I got into talking about like prog rock and pop music, and like you would never think guys that play in Weekend Nachos are gonna like 60s surf rock, but
Yeah.
like we had like a 10-minute conversation about like that, like what I'm saying, like, and then it was just like you just realize that like everybody kind of is in 14 bands there, and they
Mhm.
all like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
Super cool. And I get that because Ohio's the same.
yeah,
Dude, it's everybody knows everybody. Everybody plays in 30 bands. Like,
very cool. So the next thing I want to talk about is the album is so layered. Like there's so many textural tones and sounds going on. Is it hard to recreate it live, or is it like something just very different live for you guys?
I feel like it's a little bit something different live. Like, coming from the class of like bring it live. Like the record's awesome to have, but having like the live element, I feel like live it's a little bit more raw. It's still everything's still clean vocally, but like I think especially because we are using um like the amps and stuff that we use are the ones that we use with our heavy bands. And like the ones that we did in studio were a little bit different to kind of like make that vibe. So when you see us live, it's like louder, bigger,
Yeah,
more raw, but it still has like the elements of the softness to it. Still hooky, still clean when it needs to be clean. But yeah, it's just a different animal, and I like that we do that because like in a day and age when things are so fabricated all around,
mhm,
originally it was always like, oh yeah, they're the people that are like, yeah, they're good on the record, but when you see them live, it's just kind of like lackluster. And it's because that record was so overproduced that when you see him live, it's just like it's just kind of like a guy there, you know what I mean?
yep,
And we wanted to make sure that the record was raw. There's definitely layers to it, but we wanted to make sure that record was raw too, because whenever you see us live, it's going to be raw. We're a 4 piece.
yeah, yeah,
So as far as leads go, like they come and go like in certain parts whenever it's like layered, like whenever it's just like a really heavy rhythmatic part, the leads won't be there because it's all just fucking riff. So yeah, we wanted to bring a little bit of a more of a different element live because of the oversaturation of just, and I feel like an old guy saying it, but just like bullshit. You know what I mean? Like there's so many like just fake shit that
yeah. Too
yeah,
many backing tracks in the world.
dude, exactly. Like
I
like I
totally
I get it. Like I get it because I'm a massive Hysteria Def Leppard fan, and I get it. They're like the kings of like, but yeah, dude, we didn't want to lose like like who we were as like musicians because
Yeah.
that's who we were, dude. Like you can't change who you are. You can change the style, but
Yeah.
the riff's there, you know.
No,
I
absolutely.
know you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm totally cool with it. So let's talk about. I've read in a lot of places that the band almost actually didn't even happen. Like it kind of like stopped, started, and then you had like impossible time finding a drummer from what I was
Dude,
reading. Like so,
impossible.
so after all the nightmares that have passed and you got this record out, is this what you wanted? Is the feedback you're getting exactly what you needed? Do you feel like it's going in some weird different direction that like you never thought when you were having all these struggles?
That's actually a super good question because yeah, the only reason that the band really got back together, um, from the initial start, it was always myself, the guitar player, and the bass player, and we've had a very, very hard time locking in a drummer. Drummers would come and go. Drummers are so necessary,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but man, are they hard to work with sometimes. It's just a known thing. And no disrespect to any drummer. Like I can't do it, or I wish I could, probably wouldn't have this problem. Um, but yeah, it was almost impossible for years and years and years and years. And like we wrote, and every time we would write with a new drummer, they would want to do something different. So that was always like the big thing was finding a drummer that was on board for what we wanted to do, who got it, who didn't want to make it something that it wasn't. Because we have the bad habit of being like, okay, well, let's just get this guy. I know he's a death metal drummer or like a hardcore drummer, but we like this shit, so he probably does too. And then it would, you know what I mean? It would just, and it was like years and years of that. And the only reason that we revisited the band was because the drummer of our death metal band is also the drummer of this band called Orthodox out of Tennessee, like a hardcore band.
Mm-hmm.
And they got picked up on Century and started
Yeah.
being like very, very like everywhere all the time. And we're like, fuck, what are we going to do? So we brought Red Temple back, and it ended up being like legitimately my favorite project that I've ever, my entire musical existence at 37 years old, found like the thing that I'm like, holy shit, this is what I wanted my whole life musically. The direction that we did with the record is a little bit different than what I initially thought it was going to be. But we like for real, we have songs on this record, and we already started writing the next record. That was shit that we wrote 10 years ago. You know what I mean? But it sounds different because we have a different drummer, and we all like aged a little bit more, so we have a little bit more of an idea of what we want. And something that I didn't think that was going to happen, like happened. The band became the thing that I wanted,
Nice.
but I didn't know I wanted it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that yet until we actually put the record out, and I'm just like, holy shit, man. Because being any type of artist, no matter who you are, it's very vulnerable at times, and especially going from something so aggressive, where even though I was had subject matter that was very vulnerable and like personal, I was still pushing it. I was
Mhm.
screaming it in your face. And then with this band, I'm like leaning back and I'm clean singing, and it makes it exponentially more vulnerable. It's scary, and there's been times in the past where I'm just like, am I going to be able to do it? Like am I going to be able to actually do this? And then when this record came out and the feedback that we got, and just the opportunities that we have with the band, with the touring and everything, like it really made me feel like a whole musician.
Nice.
And I know that's kind of like a really weird, long-winded thing, but it all came from insecurities of being afraid of what's going to happen when we do release these records. And then people liked them, and it was like, holy shit, like I'm not a one-trick pony. I'm not just some death metal kid who aged out. You know what I mean?
This happens a lot. Like I've done the same thing. Like I started playing like glam hair metal, and then I went to super extreme metal, and then
Yeah.
I went into like industrial noise, and then recently a friend of mine, well, it's like my musical partner. We've written together. Like we lived on the same street and went to high school together, and we've been friends for 35 years. We decided that we wanted to write like Southern California kind of poppy hardcore record. So
Love that.
that's what we did. We put it out now ourselves. We have a PR company doing it, and all of a sudden I'm getting the best press I've ever gotten in my life, and not thinking it was going to be like the big thing I did. And people
Right.
are like, "This is the coolest thing you've ever done. How come you didn't do this 25 years ago?" I was afraid 25
Yeah,
years ago to do
dude.
it. Now I'm not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Like you get to the point where it's like, you know what? Who gives a shit? And then you put it out, and it's like there's a party that's like, "Man, I really wish I would've," but at the same time, it's like, would it be as important or would it be as good if I was 27 doing it, or if you were, you're in your 30s or your 40s putting out, would it be as
It would
good?
not it would have been nothing like this. Nothing like
Exactly.
yes.
Dude,
So
I am right there with you.
so that's cool to hear that. There are 2 songs in particular on this new record that I can't stop listening to. They're like the ones that keep drawing me back. Now, I'm the guy that listens to an album all the way through, but what happens is I'll listen to these 2 songs, I'll stop the record, I'll listen to those songs 2 or 3 times, and then I'll keep going for a
Gotcha,
while.
gotcha. Yeah, 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 yeah.
The first one is Heaven Like You.
Right.
All right. And the reason why I love this song is, and I want you to kind of talk about it, it is the track on the record that has the best mix of like the really fragile side, the dark side, and then those massive guitars kick in. Like it's kind of like the perfect mix of like if I was to play a song and say, listen to Red Temple Pray, this is the first song I would play anybody.
I love that. That's one of my favorite tracks on the record too. That's definitely our, ballad, I guess.
Yeah.
You could kinda put it in there. That record is or that song in particular is very, um it's about, like, kinda being isolated when you go out on the road, and it's like, that regardless if it's, like, a relationship that you're in or just the town or whatever it is, it's the idea of, like, there's something at home, and that's, like, my safe place, like, that's where I'm, like, safe haven, that's
Mhm.
where I'm going, and it's like the beacon of light, but you don't know if that person or that place wants you there. So it's like a kind of a bittersweet, I'm like the line that's but here I am stuck, here I am drinking bad coffee in some nowhere town. It's like oh, this is actually a sad song. Like this isn't like it's a love song, but it's like a depressing, like this guy doesn't even know if anything is there. Everybody, you know what I mean?
The bridge and the chorus, like when the guitars and vocals kick in, like it makes it from a sad song to the most like powerful, like hope-filled moments like I've
Mhm.
ever heard in my life. And then yeah, the sorrow fills in, but like that song just like you can feel that like when you wrote that, it was from experience. It
Yeah.
wasn't from just I'm gonna write a song, and
Right.
that's why it was. So no, thank you for talking about that. I
Dude,
appreciate.
thank you for bringing that up because yeah, that's one that's like it's definitely uh it's one of those things where it was easy to write because it was so real. You know what I mean? Where it just kind of fell out and you read it, you're just like, shit, okay, I do feel that way. Like this shouldn't have been this easy, but it
Oh,
was.
oh, that's awesome. So the next song I'm going to talk about is the song for me. Okay, it's like if I ever get to see you live and you don't play it, you're going to watch me walk up to you and be like, "Son of a bitch, go back."
Yeah,
Play
hell
this."
yeah.
All right, and it's Check the Kids.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and the reason why I like that is, dude, I feel like I'm 15 years old going to CBGBs and going to see my favorite hardcore band play, and then all of a sudden they became Quicksand. I don't know
Yes.
if you remember that day, like you went to see like Agnostic Front, or you went to go see like Minor Threat or a band like you went to go see somebody along those lines, and all of a sudden they became Quicksand or Fugazi, and you're like, what the hell is this? But it's the greatest goddamn thing I've ever heard now. And like now I
Dude.
want to hear the band do this. So what I say is it's like the perfect mix of like I don't throw this much around, but like there's 2 record labels that I think like if you were around in the late 90s, early 2000s, they would have picked you up and made this their single. And it's like Merge Records or Discord. Like I think
Oh yeah.
they would have just said, "Oh my god, no, we don't care what song you want to put out first. This is the one we're taking." So
Dude, that is extremely flattering, by the way. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, dude, that song is actually the song we usually open our set with. So when we play Chicago or your area next, yeah, you'll be able to hear it. But yeah, dude, that's 100% like that kind of vibe too. I think it's like later in the record. So we were like, well, we wanted to put something that's a little bit upbeat and fast and heavy, but there was like a little bit of I hate using this word, but angst
yeah,
in the idea of like, and I wanted to talk about things that were relevant to me, even though talking about like OJ Simpson, there's going to be a whole group. Who the hell's that? You know what I mean? But it's like, well, that's where I was at the time. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And it's about growing up and being fried from the generation of TV. You know what I mean? Like we're come from the generation of like, well, what's TV? TV, and you're just like fried. And it's something that is very that would have came out around that time that came out now. So it's like it's almost like it got stuck from like 1994, 1995 that would have came
Yeah.
out then about the situations that's going on. And it's like, well, I'm going to put it in, 30 years later kind of thing. So there's going to be people that we know that aren't going to fully understand it because they came from a generation that was way after that. And that song in particular was a very I remember when we were writing it, I have like a podcast studio area. That's where I'm at now. So me and the guitar player were sitting here and it was already riffed out. We already had all of like the demo drums and everything from Jordan and the bass from John already recorded. So we're sitting here listening to these like really shitty demos. And I remember us sitting here just being like, man, I kind of want to, we want to write something that is kind of like that sounds like a pop song.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we're talking about things that are, well, let's write about something that's relevant. And it's like, well, what's relevant to us rather than what's relevant to the rest of the world right now? And it's set in a time period of being like, I remember being a fucking teenager being like, fuck everything, fuck cops, fuck, you know what I mean? Everything. And it's like the mentality of that from then though, now of being like an older guy doing it. But yeah, dude, that's 100% the whole thing of that is being like a really hooky, poppy, dark. I'm talking about the OJ shit. I'm talking about I want to say I bring up like the Oklahoma City
Yeah.
bombing, and I bring up Waco and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And then I wanted to end it with the concept of being like there's cancer in the neon lights, is in like in the sense of being like the whole idea of like uh go the neon lights, man. You put your name in the neon lights, put your name, that whole idea. And it's like such a cancerous, like fucking like it's not what you thought as being a kid. You know what I mean? Like you think in your head that things are a certain way and you're going to be an artist or a musician or whatever. And if you get to a certain point, like everything's going to be cool, everything's going to be great. And it's like I'm 37 putting out a new record with a new thing. And is it going to be, is people going to pay attention? Are they going to care? And it's like, does it matter? You know what I mean? It's like you get to the
Right,
point like,
right.
who fuck them? Who cares? And like that whole thing, eating dinner while your parents fight. There's cancer in the neon lights. That whole thing is just like, oh wait, that you've
Yeah.
been carrying around for 30 years of all this shit.
Very cool. No, yeah, awesome. Uh, so I kind of want to talk about a bit of the record as well, too, kind of sound and tone and stylistically, because
Mhm.
like it's really interesting the way you did it. So the guitars, the bass tones, they're much dirtier than you would normally hear on like a polished record.
Right.
But the vocals are the very much opposite. They're big. They remind me of, and this is not a stab, this is praise, man. So don't take it
Oh,
any
no,
other.
no, no, for sure.
It reminds me of that like late 80s, early 90s arena rock kind of
Oh,
vocal,
yeah.
right?
Dude,
Where
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like let's turn the verb and the delay all the way the fuck up and let's like pretend we're singing in a goddamn arena. Like that's really what it is. So was it hard to give a good mix of keeping it heavy and like keeping the indie more kind of heavy rock kids into it and then getting like pop fans? Because like I think that's what's happening is like you have this really weird, from what I'm reading, divergence of people that like you. Like they like you for the pop sensibilities, but not the heavy stuff, or they like
Right.
you for the heavy stuff and not the pop sensibilities, but they like your record and they like it for completely different
Oh,
reasons.
yeah, dude, I can't figure it out. I have no clue. Yeah, and it's one of those things too, man, where it's like, okay, well, too heavy for the pop kids, but too pop for the heavy kids. It's like, oh my god, and this again? Like
Yeah,
it's always been the same shit. Uh, yeah, no, that's 100% awesome that you picked that out because that was definitely the idea. Is because of like, I remember getting suggestions after our last EP. Like, what if you dirty the vocals up a little bit? And because I had friends that would like hit me up, and I'm just like, I don't want to.
yeah,
I don't. I've did that. I did that for a long time. I don't want to have like Deftones is my favorite band, but I don't want to sound like Deftones. I don't want, you know what I mean? Like we might have little things here and there that kind of sound, but I don't want to. I don't want to be those bands that have a little bit of harsh in the voice or whatever. So we went straight clean, straight big. You know what I mean? Like we were like, you know what? Fuck that. And it's kind of like a almost like a fuck you kind of thing. I hate to say it because it's like I know you're going to go in thinking that there's going to be either screaming parts or it's going to be dirty in the throat, and it's like, I want none of that. None of that. So we saved all the dirty and the big for the instruments, and I'm just kind of just coasting in this weird wave above that's kind of cutting through because my voice isn't I don't have a deep voice and I don't have a high voice. It's just kind of there, you know? And that was the idea. We went in the studio and we're just like, no, man, like let's do like legitimately just like you said, like arena rock, big, like clean cut through, you know. I didn't want it to melt in the back like a shoegaze band would, where it's kind of like buried under everything. And it worked out. Like I said, like a lot of this stuff was experimenting. You know, we had no clue, and it was just experimenting in there with Andy, and getting his feedback was incredible. You know, like him being like, "What about this? What about that?" Because we came in, a lot of the hooks that we wrote on the record, even though they don't sound like it, were definitely influenced by like arena rock. We listened to a lot of when Def Leppard was hitting the hysteria arena rock, that kind of thing. And we listened to a lot of these and like, man, like we just want to be a pop band, dude. Like, you know what I mean? We can't be a boy band, too old and ugly for that shit. So we'll do this, you
Well,
know?
well, that's what I was gonna say, and I'm gonna go one record back. So you and I have a bond here. I have
Mhm.
literally seen Def Leppard a dozen times. So like I like love them. Okay. Like the day the drummer lost his arm, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna lose my favorite band of all time because like that was where I was at. But I'm gonna go back. It actually reminds me more of Pyromania
Yeah,
than,
yeah, yeah.
than of Hysteria. And the reason why is that was the first time I think Def Leppard decided we can we can sound like a pop band and the metal kids are still going to love us. Like it's not going to make a damn bit of difference. We can sing these big anthems and everybody's going to sing along. And then like just sit there for a second and be 16-year-old me and hear stage fright for the very
Dude,
first time.
insane.
Like,
Insane.
I lost my mind. I was like, High and Dry was cool and all, but
Yeah, yeah.
holy, what the hell is like they can do this and they just decided to not do it for 3 records
Yeah.
beforehand.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of the way I feel with you. Like you did all this cool stuff and you finished the record and you just were like, wait, why didn't I do this 10 years ago?
Dude,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah. That I mean, that's a incredible, like, point. Because like, yeah, with Pyromania, it was still riff heavy, but then you had, things like Coming Under Fire where it's like the big choruses, and it's like, holy shit, like, they mixed it, like, they did it, and they were a bunch of kids, dude. They were like, what, like
yeah,
2021 at that time?
they were in their early 20s.
Jesus, dude, like, Mutt Lang, dude, getting it, dude. The king. It's incredible. That's awesome that you pointed that out because that's like I said, it's 100%.
Yeah,
Like I couldn't explain it any better. That's literally exactly
that's awesome.
that's where it comes from, man. I agree. I agree fully with you. Yes.
Cool. And then I kind of want to talk about the drums for a minute, because this kind of music needs drums that have a groove and can lock in and know when to overplay and when know not to overplay. And that's the greatest thing about this record that I hear is the drummer never tries to be, hey, I'm the drummer over here. Listen to me. I am going to throw 14 fills and triplets in right now to make it happen. But was that super hard, or was it when you were recording? He just said, "You know what? No, I get it. I'm going to be the drummer of a band. I'm not going to be the focal point of the band."
Absolutely. No, no, that's Jordan is very, very good at that. He's one of the freakiest musicians I've ever seen. I don't dude, he recorded the entire the record on drums in 1 day and an hour. The entire record was done in 1 day, and that's him taking breaks to talk for an hour and a half. You know what I mean? Because he just talks, talk, talk. It wasn't hard for him in particular because I think that him being a fan of exactly what we were going for, he knew, like, he knew, like, he's again, like, bringing Def Leppard back. He's a big Def Leppard guy too, so we kind of all bonded on the same fact. It's like, hey, like, we love all of this shit. How do we make it work for a band that we wanted to do? I think there's been times where maybe like we did have to hash out parts that were, maybe we draw back on and do halftime on these parts because doing too much here loses the feel of the groove and then the laid back, like the pushing. So I feel like the drums are like behind the wagon pushing it up the hill, and a lot of times with metal and anything that's a little bit more extreme, it's how much can we do?
Right.
How much can we do in this? We have, this bar. Can we throw 4,000 blast beats into it? Stuff like that. And, luckily, him coming from the same background that we do when it comes to music and being a fan of the same things, he was able to, he picks out, he's like, oh, yeah, no, like that's not what we're doing. I'll save that for whatever grindcore band or whatever, but this
Sure.
is exactly what we need to do. And it ended up being like a perfect combination, dude. Like he was very, very good, and it was easy for him. For me, it'd be absolutely impossible because I wouldn't have no idea. For drums, I would have no clue, but he was able to really lock in and shape the song.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. Awesome. Uh, so let's talk about going the indie route and doing it all yourself right
Yeah.
now. Uh, I've read some conflicting information, like you had some labels that were interested, but you just didn't like them. Or the other side I kind of read was nobody was interested, and you kind of just said, "Screw it, let's do it." How did this all come about?
Quite literally, not one person was interested. That's coming straight from my mouth, dude. Not one label. Dude, we shopped it to everybody, and nobody. I don't know if they. I understand, especially right now when it comes to like financing records and getting any type of like push when it comes to, because there's a lot more money in the production side,
Mhm.
especially with like PR and everything like that. And again, us coming from the DIY background, we're like, what if we completely fund this record? What if
Mhm.
we completely do everything DIY up into the part where they'll have a record in their hands, be like, hey, now do we have it mastered for everything? Record, we have the master for vinyl already in our hands that we self paid for, literally everything, and we shopped it around. And I think a lot of it had to do more so of not having a name yet
Mhm.
rather than not interested in the music, because I feel like 99.9% of the people that we shopped it to didn't even listen to it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, dude, we had no bites, literally no bites. And we're just like, you know what? I'm not waiting around. We're not, as a band, we're like, we're not waiting around. It's already done. Let's just release it. Everything's already paid for. We have the masters back. It's sitting in our back pocket right now. Let's just release it. And we did. And so with as far as like the singles and stuff go, we did the proper way of building up with a couple singles. And I think we're going to release another single post record. But so I'm the guitar player is a video production guy, and I'm a photographer, videographer.
Sure.
So it just like, you know what, dude, we'll do that ourselves too. So we do all of our own videos, we do everything ourselves. And it just worked out to where people were like, hey, this is cool. This kind of professional. It's like, who released it? We're just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, dude, nobody wanted it. So it's like, it's kind of cool. But it's something that would seem kind of like, at first it'd be like, oh, nobody was interested. They must suck or something like that. It kind of like is empowering because it's like, oh, well, they did even the videos themselves, like everything is on them. So it's kind of like, man, maybe that kind of worked out for us. Because what if, dude, like my biggest fear is like, what if we do get even if it's like down to like an indie label and they didn't like, they're just like, oh, I don't know, man. Like I don't know if we should cut this from the record, or
Yep.
we should just take these 11 songs, because we only recorded 11 songs. So what's on the record is what we recorded for this record. What if they're like, let's do another EP because you guys only put out one EP. Let's chop off half of these songs. Like, but that's not the record. Like it's a piece altogether. So there's a lot of things that come in with that are kind of a blessing in disguise with no one wanting to release it.
No, I've literally been there. We were in the
Yeah.
studio recording, and the record label owner came, listened to the record, and liked everything but one song. And the one song he didn't like was the band's favorite song.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
So, can you imagine that conversation in the studio with the engineer? And the engineer was the guy that this was the third record of this band that I was recording with,
Yeah.
and literally, like, he had been with us on a journey for 6 years, and he turned to the label owner and was like, "You're out of your fucking mind. If you don't put this song on the record, I'm out." Like, he was
Dude,
literally gonna walk out of the room. Like,
did you
yeah,
guys end up releasing that?
yeah,
That
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
fuck yeah.
The song wound up on the actual record, so it was cool. But yeah, I was just like, I totally know where you're getting, but like,
Yeah.
he didn't hear it. And then what was funny was when we played live, people would scream that song, and
Ah, hell yeah. Yeah,
the,
hell
and the
yeah.
record label owner, like he was a cool dude. He was there at one night when we played the New England Metal Fest.
Okay.
Okay,
What band was it?
a band called Long Winter Stare.
Okay.
We were signed on Dark Symphonies.
Oh,
Uh,
sick. Okay.
yeah, so like, and he was awesome, but he like hated this one song for one reason, and we don't know why. And we literally played the Milwaukee Metal Fest, and we were like, we were 2 songs in, and all of a sudden people started screaming that song title, and he's standing over in the corner shaking his head.
Yeah.
Son of a, yeah, but it was funny. Like it was a great conversation piece we had.
I
So
love that. I
yeah,
fucking love that. I mean,
yeah,
that's the same thing like the Foo Fighters, like, from what I understand, I guess the label didn't want them to release Everlong. They thought it
yeah,
was
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like, dude, are you and, like, thinking back now, like, holy fuck, what would happen to music if that didn't come out?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So let's talk about this then. Right now, it's only been out for a couple weeks. Like
Yeah.
I know it's not a. What's the craziest, most positive feedback thing that you've seen that you were like, I never expected this? Like, is there anything that you've gotten from a review, a PR firm, anybody? Like, what is
Yeah.
it like? Holy shit! This is like the moment that made me. This record is worth making.
Dude, when metal outlets started liking it, I was like, "What the hell? You didn't like my metal shit."
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, whenever dude, like, I think it was, we got, like, some feedback from things like, Doom and Stone zine and some other stuff that were, like, metal oriented, and I don't know if it's because they picked up the fact that we do have influences that are on the heavier side, or if it was just something they weren't expecting, but a lot of the feedback that we've gotten is from metal outlets, and we're just like, "All right, that's a good sign." Like, I wasn't expecting that, but that's a good sign, like
Well, you got to remember, like those kind of guys love stuff like Baroness. They love
mhm,
stuff
that's
Queen
true.
of the Stone Age. They love stuff like Fu Manchu, Caius, and like
Dude, yeah.
you got that vibe. Okay, like you're on the lighter side of it, but you have that vibe.
Right. Yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah, you're right. No, for sure. Absolutely. Then that yeah, those the riffs shine through, man. It's a riff. It's still rock stuff, but it's a riff. It's a could be a metal riff in a different tone kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So if there was a dream label you could work with, like if there was one that you could say, like, hey, they came to you, you would say yes, no questions asked. Who would it be and why?
Um, Probably Sergeant House
Nice.
because they have so many weird bands, and but also like they're not afraid. You know what I mean? That label's
Oh,
not afraid.
they do Chelsea Wolf and Russian
Yeah.
Circles
Yeah. Yeah.
and post-hardcore band. Like it's crazy with the stuff they do.
Dude,
Yeah.
they are not afraid. Dude, they've released, like, I think, what, a couple, Nothing records. They
Yeah.
released, there was something they released not long ago. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, dude, but, like, that label is they're fucking great, and I feel like they would know what to do with a band like us
Nice.
because they get it, they get it, and, I don't know, that label's sick. They're yeah, weird shit like Chelsea Wolf and all that stuff, like, yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Um, so here I only got a couple left for you, and then I'll
Mhm.
let you go and you can have your Sunday back and stuff too. But if there was this is kind of a thinking man's question. So I know sometimes people have a hard time answering, but I just love to get a feedback from the band.
Right.
Uh, so if you could take one of your songs, give it to any band or project in the world that you love, and have them make it their own, which
Ooh.
song and which band?
Wow, that's good. Holy shit, that is really good. Especially because, you know, writing this stuff, you think about those bands
Mhm.
that you love. That is a fucking incredible question. Probably, dude, I would love to see what you know what? I would love to see what Def Leppard would do. 80s Def Leppard would do with Chlorine.
Nice.
I
They
think that
would
would be it.
they
That
would
or Heaven Like You. Like, if they were to take that, I'd like to see or like The Cure, see what The Cure would do with Chlorine.
see. That's what I was hoping to hear because, like,
Yeah,
uh, so "Disintegration" by The Cure is one of the
absolutely.
greatest
Yeah.
records ever
Same
made by
dude,
man.
same
Okay,
deep water as you, dude.
yeah, I was just like,
Mhm.
I was just like, when I heard that record, I was like, The Cure can just stop. Like, you made your record. Like, you
Yep.
don't need to make another one. You're done.
It's my all-time favorite Cure record too. I
Yeah,
am right there with you.
you found the darkness, the heaviness, and that gothic tone
Mhm.
all at the same time, and you made it a pop record. I still don't know
Yep.
how you did that, but yeah, like hearing Robert sing that song, like I tears may come.
Yeah.
That's how powerful that would be. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It would be his song. It wouldn't be ours anymore. You know, that kind of thing. Dude, like The Cure. Oh yeah, dude. Like The Cure doing one of those, like Heaven Like You or Chlorine,
Oh my god,
would be fucking wild. It'd be insane. Because
that's
that's the
awesome.
it's like, because I keep those type of bands in mind writing that shit. So it's like, dude, what if, you know? That's a great question, by the way. I have never heard anybody ask that before. That is awesome.
Yeah, so I was that kid back early days. Like I heard The Cure early on. I was like, what is this shit? Like I really like the first couple of records. It was just too all over the place for
Yeah.
me. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't see what they were doing. And then all of a sudden one day, like I just said, you know what? I see everybody praising this goddamn Disintegration record.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick it up and listen to it. And I was like, oh my God, like they heard all my gripes. Like they
Yeah,
literally
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they heard everything I hated about the earlier stuff and just made it what I wanted. And I was like, all right, there you go. But yeah, like, so that's one of those bands where I feel like you may be very much one of those bands for kids today.
Dude, that'd be
Where,
so sick.
but no,
Thank
no,
you.
and no, but the reason why I say it is you're not one of anything.
Right.
You're a conglomeration of everything that I've listened to over 30 years mixed into a record, and not one of the songs are identically the same, but yet they all have a common theme. And that's kind of the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is when you write the record, is it just individual songs or are you writing like complete story for a record?
The initially, I like, especially with this record in particular, and the title was kind of like a tongue in cheek, kind of like
Yeah.
poking fun at the darkest, you know, like, can it get any worse? Is in fact of like, and there's like two girls that are just having fun on the beach, you know, and the artwork itself was our buddy Colin Simula did it, an incredible artist. When we were talking with him about what we wanted to do for the artwork, I sent him the cover of that Lit record from back in the 90s, one with the girl that's in the pool. And I was like, I would love to do something that's kind of like, it looks like a commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he came up with that, and we had like the title and everything, and it just made sense. And it kind of just, as a whole, the idea, I guess, that I had in mind the whole time is like falling in love right when the world's about to end. You know,
Sure.
like that's my luck kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's and the whole idea of like, can it get any worse? Like the worst shit happens at the wrong time, that kind of thing. So the idea was all about that whole thing, and then the individuality of the songs came in whenever it came time to, um, like whenever it came down to writing. But like the whole idea of the record was kind of based around that, and it kind of like everything stemmed off into individual tracks that had their individual vibe and feeling and story behind them. But overall, it's kind of like under the umbrella of like, can you believe this shit now of all the time? And it kind of like is playful in a way because of the sense of this record coming out later in my musical
Sure.
finding, you know. I'm not old by all means, but I'm not some piss and vinegar kid anymore. You know what I mean? And it, you know, it came out and it's like the softer shit that came out. And it's like, yeah, this is everything that I've ever wanted now at 37 when my knees are bad and you know what I mean? And I'm tired.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, that's 100%, man. Yeah, it had like a general theme. It's not like a concept record, but it had like a general theme and vibe to it. And the individual of these songs kind of just accidentally happened, I guess you could say, kind of spoke for themselves.
Cool. So I'm going to end it with this and just say, talk about what's going to be going on for the next couple of weeks, next couple of months. Like what are we going to see with the band?
Hell yeah, man. Actually, this coming Friday is the record release show here where we're from in Chillicothe. It's about an hour south of Columbus. And that kind of does like a tour kickoff for us. We're only going to do 5 days on this run. Right now, we're currently already writing the next record.
Mhm.
Um, kind of get a head start on that. And so this summer, I think we're planning some more touring. We'll have another like video single coming out. Even though that the record's out, we wanted to do something that was like back in the day. It was like, let's see how the record does, what song after post comes out, and let's see what song is kind of like the more popular, and maybe do a music video. We have an idea of what we're going to do for the next single. Um, so I think that's going to be fun, just to having something else out. But yeah, just
Yeah.
dude, hitting the road, man. Just want to play live is the key, man. We just want to play and play and play and play. It's that's the goal, and I think more tours and stuff like that for the most part.
Cool. So I don't do a lot of reviews, sorry, interviews, but you're one of the bands I really wanted to do. So thank you very much for doing this. I
Dude,
really
thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me, man. This is awesome, dude. It's cool to talk to somebody that like gets it. You know what I mean? That especially with like when we were like ranting around about like the Def Leopards and the Cures and stuff like that. It's like, dude, fuck yes, like that's it.
Very cool. No, I'm very much the same way. I'm in Texas, so I'm right outside of Fort Worth. So if you ever come to this area, like hit me up, let me know. I will
We're playing
absolutely.
Dallas is our last date on this tour. I don't know
Okay,
how far
cool.
that's from you.
Like 45 minutes. It's
Oh,
not.
okay.
Yeah, so I could totally do it. I definitely will be there.
Fuck yeah.
All right, cool, man. But other than that, Clint from the Doorway too. Hanging out with Josh from Red Temple Prey. That is the hardest band name to say
Hell
sometimes, man.
yeah. Good.
But like I said, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it, and thank you for making great music.
Dude, you're the best. Thank you so much for having me, man. This is awesome.
Yep, you have a good one.